Now, it's becoming quite apparent that the quarterfinals is going to be a popular time for players to use their wildcards. And if you're one of those players, I've got a draft for you. Before I get into the players themselves and the team, I just thought it'd be worth going through a couple of points of, I'm going to call them housekeeping, basically. And first of all, I'm going to just remind you of the rules of the game because, this might slip your mind. It certainly did mine until I looked through my rules video when before making this one. There are a number of different upper echelons, basically, the max number of players that you can have per team at each stage of the tournament. We've been used to 3 at the group stages and 4 during the round of 16s, but that increases to 5 during the quarterfinals, 6 during the semis, and 8 during the finals. So just something to bear in mind when picking your team. I think this might also impact the team that you pick as well, just knowing how many transfers that you're going to have at each stage of the tournament. Quarterfinals, we've got 3. Semi-finals, we've got 4. And for the finals, we've got 5. So what I'd suggest is a team that you don't think has a strong chance of getting through to the semis, you don't think they're going to win the quarterfinals, you don't want to be picking more than 3 players from that team, basically, if that makes sense, because you're going to use almost your full use of transfers, just getting rid of players that get knocked out. So bearing that in mind, I think it's going to be really important when it comes to your team selection. And the final point of order, I think, for me, is just looking at the tournament tree. I think this Euros is shaping out in 2 halves, basically. You've got the top half here, quarterfinals between Spain, Germany, and Portugal and France. That for me, I have no way to know how those games are going to go. I cannot possibly predict them. And I think all of these teams have good assets in fantasy football, players that can score goals, etc. I think Spain can score against Germany, Germany can score against Spain, and the same can happen in the Portugal-France game, right? But you just don't know who's going to get through to the next stage. So picking players from these teams comes with a bit of risk, whereas the bottom half of the tournament tree, I'm not saying it's totally predictable, right? Turkey could definitely beat the Netherlands, and definitely with how England are playing, Switzerland could beat them too. But I would say that the Netherlands and England have a strong route to at least play another couple of games in the tournament. I think that's really important to bear in mind if you're picking a wildcard team. And so with all that information in mind, here is the team that I've gone for. I've gone for Pickford and Diogo Costa, the Portuguese goalkeeper, in goal. I was originally trying to go for Pickford and Verbruggen, but they play on the same day. You could do that if you wanted to save yourself 0.5 million and upgrade potentially elsewhere, but you will have 2 goalkeepers that play on the same day, and having Pickford and Costa, in my mind at least, it's the cheapest way you can spread the risk, with Maignan and the Spain goalkeeper Simon being 5.5 million, and with Neuer being 6, Costa is the cheapest goalkeeper that plays on a different day to Pickford. So for me, I think that makes sense. Ake, Cucurella, De Vrij, Stones and Walker in defence. I think Ake and De Vrij are nailed on for the Netherlands. And like we said when going through England and the Netherlands, I think both of these teams have, the strongest chances of going far in the tournament and being pretty frugal defensively as well. So I'm happy to pick these 4 players. And then I'm left with a player for the 4.5 million defender spot. I probably would have gone for Guéhi, but unfortunately he's suspended for the quarterfinals, and you can't be picking suspended players. Fabian Schär is an option. Jonathan Tah is an option as well. But I just think Cucurella, he's had a really good tournament so far. He's decent for ball recovery. He's got potential for attacking returns. Yes, you're not 100% sure if he's going to get through to the next stage, but it's one Spain player, right, in defence at least. So I think he's a good option. Stones and Walker, I still think England are pretty frugal defensively. They've conceded, 2 goals the entire tournament. So I do think they'll do okay. But yeah, there was obviously doubts about them, right? They've not played the best. But I think comparing them to, like a Portuguese defender, I know I've got Costa, a Portuguese defender, German defender, or a French defender, I just think they're less likely to concede and more likely to go further in the tournament. So for that reason, I've gone for an England triple up in defence. Midfield then, I've got Fabian Ruiz, Nico Williams, Jude Bellingham, Musiala and Siemens. Now, I know I said I'd try to avoid picking players from teams with tough fixtures, but Fabian Ruiz and Williams have been so impressive so far this tournament, and they're really good value that I just couldn't avoid going for them. I think they're great options, and Musiala, one of the best players in the tournament so far as well. I think you'd be really hard pressed to not be picking these 3 players, even though they play each other and there's a chance that they won't progress. We've got transfers to deal with them ahead of the semi-finals, so if any of them do get knocked out, you can just use the transfers to deal with them. Bellingham, you know, one of the top scoring midfielders in the game, couple of goals in the tournament now. Absolute, obviously, we know the clutch goal that he scored in the round of 16, right? I think his confidence is only going to kick on, and it will serve to make him score more goals, basically, going forward. So, and like I said with England, I think they're going to go to the semi-finals, which means you get 2 more games out of their assets at least. So for that reason, I went for him. Then Xavi Simons, I think, is probably the best pick of the Netherlands midfielders in the game. And, you know, similar argument to England. I think they're going to go really far in the tournament, probably get to the semi-finals. A couple more games out of him. I think it makes sense to go with him. So yeah, those are the 5 midfielders I would pick on a wildcard. Now, throughout this whole tournament, I've persisted with a front 3 of Kane, Ronaldo and Mbappe. But I think if I was on my wildcard, I'd hedge against Ronaldo. It's uncertain, I would say, if they beat France, and Mbappe just in general is a better player now, right? He's missed penalties, missed free kicks. Ronaldo's had a really poor tournament, in my opinion. And I think you can go without him. And when Cody Gakpo saves you 2.5 million and is in much better form, probably has a much better chance of, you know, playing more fixtures as well, I think he's a better option to go for. And then Kane and Mbappe alongside, you know, spoken about England already. I think they probably get to the semi-finals, although that's not totally certain. Scored a couple of goals this tournament on penalties. England's just absolute talisman. I think you've got to go for him. And then Mbappe, you know, you could suggest me other forwards, right? Because the forwards in this game, as correctly pointed out by people in my comments in the last video, have not been all that impressive. So there could be a third forward that you might like that doesn't fit in my team or doesn't go in my team, right? But I like Kylian Mbappe. I think he's the best player in the world, and I'd be hard-pressed not to go with him. If I was on my wildcard, that's the team I would pick. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. Thought I'd give you a combination of a bit of useful info ahead of playing the wildcard, things you need to bear in mind when picking your team and transfer totals, etc. I mean, you saw that at the start of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Let me know in the comments if there are any changes you'd make. Obviously, we've all got different opinions, right? We all play the game, different people. I'd be interested to hear your different views in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Like I said, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just here on your screen. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.